I am Mecha Random 42, your favorite YouTube harpy, and talking about Bumblebee. And I was pleasantly surprised by this movie, and I am going to give you guys the best non-spoiler review I can. That being said, the movie is pretty predictable. If you see something set up in the beginning or towards the beginning, it will pay off. It will come back, and you'll be like, oh, this is going to be how they resolve this issue because we've established this thing in the beginning of the movie. That is not at all a negative thing. I say this because I watch a lot of really bad things, especially for the channel, especially things like Star Trek Discovery or something, where everything's kind of just because I don't know, because script says so. This didn't so much feel like that. This felt like a very much a, yeah, we kind of know where this is going, but this is how you develop your characters. This is how you give a good backstory. This is how you show motivation and the bond. And I will say this. This is probably this is probably the best remake of E.T. I think I've ever seen as well. And I say that is because basically you have, the kid who finds the alien in the garage or near the garage, all these elements where you have to kind of take care of the alien, blah, blah, blah. That's really similar to kind of what happens in the Bumblebee movie. I don't want to spoil anything. I mean, because you're probably going to get the idea of it. If you've seen the trailer, you understand that, okay, Bumblebee and the girl have to kind of, they kind of have to find themselves, and they have to kind of, I hate using that term. They have a lot of parallel character arcs in this. Bumblebee comes to Earth, and he's got, of course, amnesia and everything, can't talk, whatever, blah, all that stuff, which we see in the trailer. And of course, he needs to kind of find who he is in the movie. And they make such a good job, they do such a good job of making this 3D CG robot car the character you care about, I was having like a lot of flashbacks of Short Circuit 2 where they're trying to disassemble Johnny Five and on all these things. And of course I have to bring up stuff like Short Circuit 2. This movie takes place in the 80s. It is such an 80s movie. It feels like the 80s. I'm a huge music geek. There's a few little things I'm like, this song was actually a couple years later, or, people who like this type of music wouldn't necessarily like this other type of music. That being said, they made some pretty decent choices. There's some really funny music moments. I really liked that feel of it. And of course, there is the little, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I believe that they gender swapped the main character so that he's befriending a girl in this, and I think this is like a callback to the cartoon series. I don't remember much of the cartoon, I'm sorry. I don't remember a whole lot of it, or the cartoon, or the original Transformers movie. I remember enough of it to get a good reference in here, and I'm not going to spoil what that reference is, but I do remember enough of it to get some of the references in this. And there's some great nods in there. And I say this, like, the fact that this is a girl main character, you could very easily call SJW. You could very easily say, oh, this is just a girls movie. This is just to get female representation. I don't think that's the case with this movie, and I'll tell you why. Because basically they set this girl up as a tomboy. They set her up as being, her interests as a tomboy are the things that really connected a relationship with her father in the movie, and you'll see a lot more of that. And I don't really want to spoil anything that you haven't seen in the commercials already, or in the trailers. She's very much a well-done, strong female character. She fails a couple of times. She's at a different place at the end of the movie than she was at the beginning of the movie. The beginning of the movie, she's mopey, she's down in the dumps, she's, sort of standoffish. The end of the movie, her character overcomes a couple of things. I don't want to spoil it, but this is how you do strong female characters, and I love that. She's such an 80s chick, too. She is such the quintessential, 80s movie chick. There's a lot of 80s movie references in this, too. Just some great stuff with Bumblebee. a movie he's watching in particular that I really love. I love the nods to the 80s. It's like somebody took this movie and said, okay, who are our fans? Who are Transformers fans? Oh, they're people from the 80s. So let's throw out these 80s like references, but in a good way, in a valid, you know, you'll see like a Tab can for product placement sort of thing, because Tab was popular in the 80s and Back to the Future and stuff like that. You'll see that, but it's done in such a good way that you won't really mind. At least I didn't mind. And I'm so critical of these sort of movies. It is very much like a good love bug sort of movie. It's very much E.T. It is very much an 80s sort of coming of age sort of movie, a coming to terms with things in your life sort of movie, finding friendships sort of movie. There's a lot of character growth. Also, John Cena is really, really funny in this. He has a line in there that I would say myself, God, I don't want to give anything away. He's really funny in this. I really enjoyed this movie. It's got a lot of really kind of, I don't want to say slow moments. There's a lot of moments where you can kind of take time to really connect with the characters on screen. And yes, it's a giant freaking CG robot car from space, but you're there like, oh, poor, I want a hug. They make you kind of feel that sort of thing. And there's a lot of great sort of character moments. There's like some feels in this. There's some sad moments in this. And they take the time to kind of let it simmer and to let you feel the emotions on screen with the characters. This was like really, really deep for a Transformers movie. Like, oh my God, they actually gave some interesting concepts and interesting like human family sort of storytelling. Also, another thing, there's a lot of women in my theater. This is the second movie in a row where there's just a lot of women in the theater. I think these movies are kind of almost taking the place of almost chick flicks. And this is not so much a chick flick. This is very much a 80s teenage coming of age sort of story. Overcoming the obstacles of you know, okay, this crappy thing happened in life and this, you know, here I need this other person to kind of go through similar things so we can both overcome it together. Love that. They do even do the typical sort of Hollywood diversity stuff. You know, she's got a little boy next door crush. Doesn't matter. Isn't important to the story at all. Perfect way to get, you know, the diversity sort of quota in there, by not making a big deal out of it, by not going out of your way to say, hey, look at us, we're progressive, look what we did. You know, they don't make any mention of it, they don't have any lines, it's just, yeah, it's the kid next door, who cares, whatever. I like it when they do that. I don't like being preached to. This movie didn't preach to me. This movie had a really strong writer, and I looked at the end credits. I'm watching the end credits, and I'm like, I noticed a woman wrote this movie. You can hire talented females out there, you know, people can write, people can do this. You just have to find the right people to do it. And I can't remember her name off the top of my head. You guys will know in the comments. It feels like she took, you know, okay, what can we do? We've got clear-cut bad guys. We've got clear-cut good guys. We need to have these characters kind of grow together on screen. Even the bad guys, you know, even some of the bad guys might have some character development. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. But yeah, you see the clear motivations, you know, something happens in the beginning that pays off in the end. There's no weird plot contrivances that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody will probably correct me on that. But yeah, it was just a solid movie. I really enjoyed it. I think I would also give this one about an 8 out of 10. Just like Aquaman, probably for different reasons. Now with something like Aquaman, you're very much in a scene, you know. You have your talking scene, action scene, talking scene, action scene. This one was a little different. This one, they really, like I said, they stopped and held an emotional moment when they needed to. Sometimes a little too much. Like, I think some of the robot stuff was almost a little too graphic. Like, if those were people, I'd be, like, kind of horrified and it would be an R rating or something. Because some of these robots are pretty darn destructive to each other. Like I said, again, I was having, like, the same kind of feels with Johnny Five from Short Circuit 2 as a kid. And you know, and it's so... it's so refreshing to see good quality movies that I can enjoy for completely different reasons. You know, Aquaman is your very big, you know, big budget CG, everything on the screen, a lot of battles, a lot of stuff. The thing about Transformers, this Transformers movie, it was really easy to follow the action. Not like any of the past Transformers movies where they just have so much crap on screen. When you have the robots fighting, you have 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. You don't have just a massive amount of cities being destroyed and leveled and all this stuff flying on the screen. Just the CG shitstorm of stuff like the other Transformers movies. No, they keep it focused. You can see which Transformer is fighting which, you know, which other Transformer. And I liked that about this. It didn't feel like there was too much. You know, if you felt very much the personal connection of, you know, okay, Bumblebee is fighting this Transformer, and yes, this is his payback for, you know, whatever, or that, or this other payback, or because you can remember which Transformer from the beginning to the end, because there's not a million of them on screen. And I'm coming at this from like a casual, average movie-going audience member, somebody who does remember Transformers from the 80s, but somebody who probably can't name more than a handful of them. You probably saw in the trailer already, they've got the one that's the tape deck, and he even ejects the other. That stuff I like, because that I remember. I remember wanting him as a kid when in the 80s, man, because I liked the cassette. I'm a music geek. As you couldn't tell, I'm a huge music geek. So I wanted, like, the tape recorder Transformer as a kid. Yeah, like I said, go watch this movie. It is very fun. It is very there's some feels in there. There's some heartwarming stuff. This is a great way to, you can have boys watch this movie, you can have girls watch this movie. It doesn't matter, because the girl on screen is pretty awesome. She's not a Mary Sue. She's not badass from beginning to end. She's competent. You know, she's a competent character that needs to be the way she is to do what she's doing in the movie, and then she gets better. And you know, she even has some stumbles, some failures, some things that she overcomes in the end. That's what I want to see. And yes, it's pretty predictable, so is Aquaman. But in the day and age where we have movie studios that subvert our expectations or insult us to our face if we don't like their movies, this is enough. Just having a plot that makes sense. Just having some time on screen to kind of slow down and say, oh, we need to kind of experience this with this character. I like that. So, did you guys see this movie? Tell me what you think. I know it's a week late because I can only really squeeze in one movie a week now. Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Let me know in the comment section below. I am MechaRandom42. I liked this movie, so please go see it if you are a fan of like the old Transformers. If you're my age and you're from the 80s and maybe a little sooner than or earlier than the 80s, you'll probably really like this movie. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys on the next video or live stream. Bye!